So I've recorded this video and re-recorded this video before. This is gonna be a two-parter, so bear with me. There's gonna be two uploads today, and when these do go up and they go live, I would like you to watch both videos, but you don't have to watch both. They'll be based on their respective conference, and if you're interested in the second video, watch it. If you're not, hey, I just told you, you don't have to watch it. I'm not gonna hold you hostage. Or am I? No, but on a more serious note, this video is about things that I've noticed about every single team in the NBA. In my last recording, I kind of forgot some teams and suddenly remembered their existence when I was talking about another team that was related to them and what moves they made in the offseason. I might make 3 recordings in one session. So if you see me in the same shirt and shorts, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Sometimes it happens. All right, so what could this video possibly even be about? Why haven't I uploaded in a while? Well, this video is about everything I've noticed with every single NBA team in the Western Conference. So we're going to start with the West because in the other recordings I started with the East and it jogged my memory about the East. So we're going to start West first. The first team we're going to talk about is the last team to make the finals and win it out West, the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets have a lot of core issues going into their next season. Now they did unfortunately lose KCP, and that's one thing to take note of, how that will affect him. But that's not the thing I want you to notice with this team. The thing you need to notice with this team has nothing really even to do with basketball as it comes to like playing it on the court. No, it has a lot more to do with their core guys, their big three, if you will, of really their quartet. The same quartet they won a championship with is all really expensive, and their depth is suffering because of that. Now, you pay your championship guys, that's pretty obvious. It's a pretty standard practice throughout the league. But the way these guys are getting paid right now makes it very hard for them to contend in the future. And the flexibility they wanted with getting off of KCP's deal, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. That is a lot to say about one team. So we're going to get into the next team. Honestly, Denver's looking better just because a certain other team that we're going to bring up right now did something that I don't really understand what you were doing unless we're only strictly talking finances. Speaking of financial decisions that made no sense, the Minnesota Timberwolves got rid of Karl-Anthony Towns, who was probably the perfect fit for the team that they had going. Now, I understand why you got rid of him. Again, it's about financial flexibility in the NBA, and that's going to be a core motif of this next season and the future to come, mainly because of the second apron. I will do an entire separate video about the second apron. I do want to watch more content on around it and look into it more. It is public information that I could find on the CBA. Just, corporations do stuff like that, so I could look into it more. I do want to take this a little bit more seriously. But I haven't put in the time in to look into it. But the reason they traded Karl-Anthony Towns is specifically because he's making so much money and he's on a max contract. And I'm not really sure that the max contracts are going to be thrown around like they used to. So you're going to have a lot more motion in the NBA. Because normally with a star, you're going to just throw the max at him anyway. It doesn't matter. You're going to retain that guy, right? Now you're looking at a lot of fringe stars. And I don't mean fringe stars as in they're not all stars. I mean like fringe stars where like you're thinking, yeah, this guy's a star, but like, do I want to pay him like this type of star? Probably not. And the reason you got rid of Karl-Anthony Towns is because of that. And the reason you traded for Julius Randle is because you wanted more flexibility. Now, a lot of people seem confused that this is a basketball move that they made. No, not really. I do think they'll either trade Julius Randle or let him walk in free agency. I mean, those are the only two options they possibly have anyway. But I feel like when and how they do it will be more based on the team's success in the production. I do not think the team will be as successful as they were last year. I think they're going to take a massive step back in the standings. But it really depends on the ascension of I can't even say Karl-Anthony Towns anymore. It depends on the ascension of Anthony Edwards, and it'll depend on the defense and how that looks. Now, this is a bad move specifically because it doesn't help you beat one of the best teams in the conference. But it might be better to do this. I'm not sure if you think this, but I'm pretty sure everyone would agree that you probably want a strong big forward on Luka if you're going to have to run into him. So this does make them better in the Luka matchup. This does make them worse though as a team overall. The offense is going to struggle because of this and because of the shot diet of Julius Randle. And obviously he's not used to getting this little shots, especially because he went to New York. He went and build that team up to become a playoff team multiple years in a row actually. And it's kind of disappointing for him, but like that is what it is. Let me gain some attention and like people who actually want to listen to the NBA. I'm going to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going to talk about that guy in particular. I think that's a very important thing to notice. Obviously, LeBron. How could you not notice LeBron? But here's the thing that you need to actually pay attention to: how much are they getting out of LeBron? How much are they using LeBron? Remember, the JJ Redick is a brand new coach in the NBA. Before this, he's never even coached college basketball, never coached high school basketball. He coached his children's middle school team, which, if you're asking me, that's not good credentials. Now, JJ is a brilliant basketball mind, but that's not the same thing as being a brilliant coach. There are plenty of brilliant coaches that are just terrible basketball minds. Like, for example, Phil Jackson is a dog shit basketball mind. And you might be saying, why do you say that? Why do you know this? Because his time as the GM for the New York Knicks, ironically, was one of the worst things that's ever happened to New York. And there were 2 buildings in New York. I don't know if you know this, but, you know, I would compare the natural. All right. The third team after the Lakers, because, you know, it's going to be messy regardless. I think they're in basketball hell. The best thing that could probably happen to them is probably trading for Stephen Curry and losing out on their entire future, which I don't know what to tell you. I only think the Lakers could do it instead of vice versa, because you're not going to trade LeBron. And if they wanted to trade LeBron, they should have done it last year or the year before last. It seems like they don't want to trade LeBron, but they need to either double down on the future or like really make their stand and be like, we're done with the LeBron era. We're moving on to the next era in Lakers basketball, and it doesn't seem like they want to do that. So take notice of that. Take notice of how this team is performing. If they look good in the regular season, they might look good in the playoffs. But again, basketball is about matchups, and they match up terribly against the Denver Nuggets. That's another thing. A lot of these moves that you've seen made, they do affect the basketball matchups of every single team across the league. Don't even like wonder about that. It's true. But the problem is the teams that you are losing out on your strengths against versus what you're gaining after these moves. That's at least for the Timberwolves and Knicks. But this is not about the Eastern Conference. We're going to continue going down the Western teams. The Rockets. What do I need you to notice from the Rockets? I'm going to be honest. There's not enough money in the world that I could make from these videos that would honestly have me watch a Rockets basketball game. They're dysfunctional. Alfred Sengun is their best player. They're pretending like he is not. They have not given him the cast that he needs to even develop. I think it's really tragic that they don't have any perimeter offense outside of Fred VanVleet. And I know you're saying, Jalen Green. Jalen Green only performed well at the tail end of the season when no one was really trying to guard these guys anymore because no one cares. And realistically, you were just going, well, we're not losing to the fucking Rockets. That was the only thing that was your motivation for not losing the game. Now, Jalen Green did have an explosion there, and I do think you need to notice if he's going to be playing well, but look to trade him. I do not see him as the guy that's going to be the answer to your long-term problems in Houston, and Ime Udoka can do as much coaching as as great as a coach as he is. I don't think that's enough. Their organization is not where it really needs to be. It's pretty disappointing, but it is what it is. Phoenix. Phoenix is in the worst possible basketball situation. And it's not even just because this team makes no sense together on paper. It's not even because these players aren't talented. It is just because not only are you paying for a team that does not make sense together, you're paying for a team that is hell of expensive. I think they might be the most expensive team in the NBA, and to have no results to show for it, and I mean no results. I mean not even a single playoff win with this team. I don't know what to tell you. This was a bad move when you made it. It was a bad move when Bradley Beal said he wanted to be a part of this team. Now, Beal had an underrated season. I don't know what it was, but like looking at his numbers, and yes, there's context with the numbers, but actually really diving into his numbers, he had good numbers last year. Like really good shooting guard numbers that just went under the radar because this team's success was always overrated by the media or underrated, right, by fans, to be honest. Like, this team is the definition of holy, I thought you were better, but holy, you are so ass. It is, it's a puzzling team. I think Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal together is not an issue. I think Kevin Durant and Devin Booker together are an issue. But having all three of those guys on the exact same team at the exact same time, considering that they have very similar traits and that none of them are defensive studs, yeah, this is not gonna work. It's look for a notice Devin Booker trade rumor starting to spur up. I thought he could have been traded to like a team in like New York, but that was before they made the Mikal Bridges move, and I'm not sure. Maybe there's going to be a trade with the Nets to get their picks back. A lot of trades that I'll suggest in this video will be to get their picks back when a team has made a very stupid fucking move that backfired and blew up in their face. But I mean, yeah, that might be important. I'm not sure. Looking into the next team, we're gonna go back to Texas. We're gonna go back and look at the team that made the finals. Crazy how we haven't talked about them yet, but Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, the thing you need to notice for them is how Klay Thompson fits into the offense. It is very simple. If Klay is going to be really good in this offense, they're going to be really good. Now, if Klay is going to be if he's going to be okay at the defensive end, because that's really all I'm expecting from him. I don't expect him to be good because of, the injury history that he's had. Those are very hard injuries to even come back into playing basketball. And if he had both of those injuries before in like 2016, his career would be over. But it's not 2016, thankfully. It's 8 years later, which, side note, that's crazy. This team has realistic playoff expectations. I think if Kyrie plays better in a matchup where, he's not in guard hell, having to deal with Derek White on him, Drew Holiday, and the likes of Jaylen Brown as well defending him. And even if you get a switch, you might be switched on to Jason Tatum, which, look, as much as I hate on Tatum, that's not something you want. That's not the matchup you want. And there is no matchup you want against the Boston Celtics. So I'm not disappointed in where they finished last year. I am disappointed that they didn't win a single game that mattered. Because once they I feel like didn't they win when they were down 3-0? Like it was over. The thing you need to take notice of is really just how Klay fits into this team. If his defense is good and his offense isn't gonna be bad. I just don't see that happening. It's really about his defense, to be honest. The next team we're gonna talk about is the Spurs. We're staying in the Texas area. I'm gonna finish those teams up right now. Victor Wembanyama, not Victor, whatever. You know what I'm saying. The man has his own shoes now. Did you know that? That's a fun fact. A more fun fact is this team got Chris Paul for like very little. He's on a vet minimum deal, I'm pretty sure. And the thing you need to really worry about if you're the Spurs is not so much can they get Victor Wembanyama the ball this season. No, they're gonna get him the ball. If Chris Paul can't get him the ball, it might be time for him to retire, right? He's 7'3". Chris Paul is one of the greatest passers in NBA history, and even if you don't want to say that he's lost a step, he is still going to be an amazing threat with the passing ability to Victor Wembanyama, who is, I would like to point this out, 7'3" with an 8-foot wingspan. Just throw the ball in his general direction, and I'm promising you, he'll probably put the ball in the hoop. Now, on the defensive end, this team might have gotten slightly worse. I think they can still improve, though, just because, they're a young team, and they have plenty of room to grow. This is all. I also wanted to talk about the trends of where I think teams are going in the future and stuff like that. We're going to go back to speaking of teams, we're going to go back to California and probably finish those teams up right now. The Golden State Warriors, dear God, you are a dumpster fire. You have never looked this bad. And honestly, I want to pin one thing on this entire team, right? You're losing a Bob Myers. I don't know if you know about this guy, but he's an NBA GM. He's currently working for ESPN now on shows like Inside the NBA. I did not, for the life of me, know that it was this hard to be a general manager, and it is showing. This team has, they went on their last rodeo in 2022, and they have not been a real threat to win the championship since. They lost Klay for nothing. They lost Chris Paul for nothing, two guys I just talked about. They were unwilling to take on Zach LaVine's contract. they were unwilling to give a max to the Clippers player Paul George. I think they were no, sorry, my bad. They were willing to give him that contract. The problem wasn't that they were willing to give him the contract. The problem was the Clippers, another LA team that we'll get into right after this one, were unwilling to trade him to them, and that upset the pot. That stirred the pot. That made Clay leave for nothing. He felt disrespected, and I don't blame him, because if you win 4 championships with one organization, you would feel disrespected too if they were shopping you. And I don't even mean they didn't even want to trade Clay in the deal either. That's not the issue. It's just that when you're looking for your money, you're looking for your money now, and you got to respect that. But the problem with that is this is blowing up in their face really bad, and I think they need to trade Steph to even have a chance in the future. Now, Steph is a generational talent, but let's be realistic. I do not see the value of holding on to a generational player, right? When you could get a generational haul from a much more desperate team to send him to, where there's a desperate team in contention in the same state as you, that you know if they have Stephen Curry, they might win a championship. They might win 2 championships. But even if they win those 2 championships, the haul and assets you will be getting back over the next 5 or so years will more than make up for that, especially because this team is not going to be together for long. Trade him to the Los Angeles Lakers. If that's me, I'm trading him to the Los Angeles Lakers immediately. Especially because he's made it clear that he wants to contend and he doesn't want to be here if we're losing. I would much rather have to put together a thank you video for Stephen Curry than have this team be in basketball hell. Especially because your Warriors fans are going to be loyal no matter what happens. And Steph is the main drawing point of this team. But the Warriors fans have had so much success recently that if you make this an amicable move and you make it happy, everyone's good and happy on both sides from the team perspective and a player perspective, and Stephen Curry, I think that could work out. I don't have any inside information. I'm not Wojnarowski or I am Shams, but I think this feels like the most likely trade that I could likely see. Both teams are desperate to make moves, and I don't think the Lakers are willing to punt on LeBron and AD. So here's that. Speaking of California teams that made a big trade in the offseason that people really don't care for. Yeah, the Sacramento Kings. Why? Why did you trade for DeMar DeRozan? To not be stagnant. Now, the problem with trading for DeMar DeRozan, and the thing you need to take notice of, is really how good is De'Aaron Fox's shooting going to be over the course of the season? Because if his shooting is well, I think the DeMar and Sabonis thing could pick and pop, because it's not going to be a pick and roll, to be honest. I don't think DeMontis is that great of a roller to the basket. He's a solid roller, but again, this ain't prime DeAndre Jordan or something going to the basket. This is Domantas Sabonis, and I don't know if you know this, but white man can't jump. He has been made, the comparison has been made to call him Nikola Jokic light, or just a mini Nikola Jokic. Not as impressive as, I don't know, the best player in the world, but he's pretty fucking good. Yeah, you really need to take notice of how De'Aaron Fox and him are going to space the floor, and how that's going to play out. Their offense could be lethal. Mike Brown has proven that he could be a good offensive coach. He's proven in the past he could be a good defensive coach. Now, defensively, this team is going to be bad. This team is not going to be a good defense. I think they're going to have to go into, ironically enough, the similar mode that the Pacers are going to have to go to. If they're hitting on all cylinders offensively, this team is going to be deadly regardless of what they do. So that's what you need to notice. Take notice of their defense and how bad it is, I guess. Take notice of how DeMar DeRozan might be one of the best players of all time to not really be effective in this era. It sucks, but wrong era, you know? So many players were like, oh, he wouldn't survive in the 90s. DeMar DeRozan would survive in the 90s. This version of DeMar DeRozan would survive in the 90s. Isn't that crazy? Don't even think of bro as like a top 20 player in the league, and people would be like, yeah, bro, he would be smoking in the whatever. Yeah, speaking of California teams, oh my god, the Clippers, you are such a mess. Now, I know the second apron has made you wet your pants, and you've been contemplating, do we pay Russell Westbrook? Do we pay a James Harden? Do we pay a Kawhi Leonard? These are all things that you knew about last season. You knew these things were coming up last season. You knew that when you made the trade for James Harden. And realistically, and I do truly want you to think about this, realistically, let's think about this. This team looked at Kawhi Leonard, who was the most injury-prone player on that team, and said, okay, you played a lot of games in comparison to next year. This might be an outlier, but we're going to pay you. Bam! Give him that money. You nickeled and dimed Paul George, according to him. Now that could be wrong. It could be just untrue. But you nickeled and dimed with him for after a while, and he just didn't want to take the contract that you offered him at that point. Because at that point, he felt disrespected. That's what he's told us. You lose him for nothing because you don't trade him to the Golden State Warriors. You don't get anything in that. That would have been a nice sign to trade. You lose him for absolutely nothing. He walks on you and goes to Philly. Now, I want you to think about Paul George's 10 years as a Clipper. Was it the most successful thing ever? No. No, it wasn't. The entire era was not successful. But he was the one that played and suited up to play basketball for you the most. He's had injury problems as well. And I understand you don't want to commit to 2 injury-prone players, but if you were going to commit to one of them, it should have been Paul George. This just screams we didn't want to reach that part of the ceiling, and we didn't want to pay that much. Bombers has a lot of money. Steve Bombers is a great owner. He is going to spend money. So realistically, this is a front office thing. It's not about Steve Ballmer, to be honest. I think Steve would have been willing to go into the luxury tax for this. But I just think he doesn't want to have this team on such a high payroll and just to not win. So realistically, and I know this is going to sound crazy, you might have just had to let everybody go. Your picks to the future are owned by the Thunder. Maybe you could try and get some of those back. Realistically, you're not getting those back. So what you should have done is just triple and double down on this era. There's nothing you could have done better at this situation. No matter what you did, it was going to look bad. So I guess they were just trying to save money, but that feels like a bad idea, especially when you're going into your own arena this season. Like, you have your own arena this season. This is the first time in franchise history you have it, and you're not going to be good in it. That's beyond disappointing. Think about the numbers of toilets in there for you guys to look like what's going into those toilets. That's bad. That's not good. The California teams have been tackled. The Texas teams have been tackled. Well, you might be saying, what's left? And to that I say, Portland is left. Man, the original catalyst for this video, man, makes me want to talk about Portland in even a far worser light. Now, I know you might not know that because you're not seeing the original recording, but here we're talking about the Portland Trail Blazers. Why do you have so many point guards on your roster? Why do you have so many guards, period, on your roster? Pick a guard, for the love of God. It's supposed to be Scoot Henderson, but a word on the street is niggas don't know what's going on with him. It's supposed to be him. He is supposed to be the guy. Now, if he's supposed to be the guy, get rid of everybody else and Jeremy Grant. Why are they still on this team? Why is Jeremy Grant still on this team? Now, I know you're not. No one in the league is struggling to have young guards on their team. If you can think of a team that just doesn't have a guard that is essential for their offense, then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe the Charlotte Hornets could use him, because considering that LaMelo Ball never plays basketball, right? But dear God, figure something out. Please. I'm begging you. I do not want to see this many guards on your roster. You have a surplus of guards. Trade one of them to the Timberwolves or something. I don't know. By the way, let me go back to the Timberwolves real quick. You have a rookie point guard who's in a mentorship role. It'd be nice to learn something from him. It'd be nice to see that. You got a pick from the Spurs. That's cool. Look for that. Do something with that. Donzie DiVincenzo, do something with that. I mean, those are the assets you realistically got this offseason. And I don't think it was worth losing out on Cat, but there could be a moment where this GM, who is very talented and built the Nuggets championship winning core, could realistically get something done here. Now, I do still think that Cat was a perfect piece and that you punted on a year. I think you should have figured it out. If you wanted to trade him next year. But there's no time like the present, I guess. If you're wondering why I just shifted so far away from the Portland Trail Blazers, what do you want me to tell you? This team's not relevant. They never will be. Speaking of teams that are relevant, though, oh my. What's to notice about OKC, bro? What is there to say about OKC? Is there something that I'm missing? Like, realistically, look at this team. Look at them. They have everything. They have center depth. They have wing depth. They have guard depth. They have every type of guard, too. You got your elite shooter that's defense is whatever. Solid to good, right? You have a great 3-and-D one in Isaiah Joe. You have Alex Caruso, who's another great 3-and-D guard. More defense than 3, but God, he's really good at it. You have an MVP caliber player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have Jalen Williams who's improving. You have Chet Holmgren who's improving. You have a nice young core. You have Lou Dort who's a great defender. It does seem like he gets a little bit too many minutes, but he's still really good at the game of basketball for what they need of him. This team is possibly the most complete team in the NBA, not just the West, the NBA at large. And there's a reason that they're like number 2 in odds to become champions. They might even be number 1 depending on when time this video goes up. This is a legitimate team, and I didn't think there was a better team to even talk about than this team. I think we've covered every NBA team in the Western Conference. Now, I might have missed a team, but if I did miss a team, that should show you how truly irrelevant they are, all right? Do not hassle me, do not honker me, and do not bother me. Please like the video. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to be a little bit more stingy about where I get my plugs, but yeah, plug me up. Plug me the fuck up. Pause. Shift. We're ending the recording session now, so yeah, we're gonna go into the next video. I'm gonna take a little breather, and we'll have a great time. Bye.